Welcome to Out of the Parx with John Marks. I'm your co-host, Sam Stafford, alongside, of course, John Marks and the one, the only Maniac Malloy. Maniac, tell him what to do.
Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Sprinkle on that like and subscribe. Guys, the Phillies are the NL East champions for the first time in 13 years. And before we get into it, I'm going to come right out of the gate. Where were you guys just in life in general 13 years ago, the last time the Phillies were the NL East champs? So 2011.
Wow. 2011, I was working in a doctor's office, working for my uncle, working for a neurosurgeon.
Wow.
So you can imagine the last face you see before they put you under for surgery, and it's me popping up, looking down at you.
What were you doing?
Just answering the phones.
Oh, all right.
So, yeah, that's what I was doing. I was working in Huntington Valley. That was back in my days of prank calling John Marks.
Me.
And yeah, those days. So, yeah, it's been a while.
I thought you were going to say, like, when the way you were talking was like you were administering anesthesia, and then they were the last person that you were seeing before they went out. Was Maniac
Yeah,
Malloy,
if you guys didn't
scary.
know, he had aspirations to be a brain surgeon. Maniac Malloy over here.
Damn.
Still going to school for that.
Yeah, I was working at 97.5 The Fanatic. I was still working with Mike Vicinelli. So yeah, I remember exactly who I was for the clinch, but that was a great run for the Phillies. Little did we know, Sam, that was going to be the last time that the team won a division. We thought it was going to keep happening and it would continue. The window officially closed in 2011. For that.
Yeah, we didn't realize at that point how good we had it, because I think that was like the 5th consecutive year at that time that we were the NL East champs. So we probably were just so spoiled, not even realizing. And at that point, that team, we probably thought we were going all the way to the World Series. I was just a sophomore in high school. So it's hard to remember back at that time because obviously doing everything, sports and all those extracurricular activities. It is funny though, because it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but then you talk about it, like our producer, Mark Feldman over here is like, I was in 7th grade. And we're like, oh my gosh, it has been quite some time. So obviously you don't need to be NL East champs to go far. We've seen that the last couple years, but it doesn't hurt. I do want to look at, so before we actually get into it, let's talk about last night's game. Thank God it is the last time, hopefully, that we will have to see Taijuan Walker and a bullpen game from this team.
God. Yeah, you're not kidding. I'm officially, guys, at the point where I feel bad for Taijuan Walker, and it's obviously he's making tens of millions of dollars to suck at being a pitcher, so I don't feel that bad for him.
Yeah, true.
But just from a human standpoint, when you put him out there, he's got nothing. He knows he's got nothing. It's like he's up there throwing batting practice every time he comes out. More or less, he's just getting crushed. So yeah, like there should be no more even low leverage situations for Taijuan Walker this year. I know there was a lot of emotion from people after his last start that said, designate him for assignment, get rid of him right now. He's not going to pitch in the postseason. Let's just make it through this year. Put him out there if you just need an arm to go get crushed in a game. But it was tough. Last night was tough, and I can do without seeing Taijuan Walker again as a Philly. That's for sure.
Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
Yeah, what do we do this offseason? Is contract up? Was it a one? No, he's got
He's
another year.
He's got 2 more years. He's got 2 more years and $34 million left after this year. So what you do is you hope that you can sell him to another team. Maybe you pay for most of his salary to get him out of here. But most likely what they're going to do is they're going to give it another stab. They're going to hope that he gets healthy. They're going to hope that his stuff comes back. They're going to hope that he can actually contribute. I don't see it happening. But if you're going to pay him to leave and just get rid of him, I guess you go back into it and you try to do it again. But there can't be any real expectation that he's going to bounce back and be fine from here.
Yeah, I agree. There was a quote this weekend from John Middleton, owner of the team, saying that they're excited for what's going to happen this year, but they're still already thinking about how they're going to go all in the offseason. And a lot of people are kind of tying the Phillies as one of the top people to go after Juan Soto this offseason. So, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but that just reminded me we brought up the offseason. It could be a really fun offseason, but to that point, they might not be paying people to leave if they're going to spend like $500 million on Juan Soto. So time will tell. But guys, last night, Bryce Harper, the Phillies, they did put up runs. And that's what the unfortunate thing is with that bullpen game and the performance we saw in that is the Phillies did for the most part, the offense put up their job. You got 4 runs on the board. Bryce Harper hit his 30th home run of the season, fifth time in his career that he's had 30 home runs or more. So not bad for a guy that went a whole entire month without hitting any, and a suspected injury that was secretive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think last week we got to get him going, and it's good to see him start to hit the ball out of the ballpark when it matters most. As the season comes to a conclusion, you got to have Bryce Harper feeling good and swinging a hot bat, and I think that's starting to happen right now. So, good sign.
Yeah, to that point, the home run he had last night, I don't know if the ball made it more than 10 feet off the field for the entire flight. That was a rocket. Exit velo was almost 110. He does look healthy. We talked about this for weeks. It looked like he was laboring. He had an elbow. He had a wrist injury. He looks healthy. And if there's not a better time for him to kind of get that health back and start swinging the bat well, and he's doing that right now. So I was excited for the 30th home run last night. I mean, like, to me, it was like, all right, they can lose this game. I don't care. This is kind of a scheduled loss. They clinched the NL East. Rob Thompson said, party tonight, but remember, we still have a job to do after this. They more or less gave the game away last night with Allard and Taijuan Walker and whoever the hell else was in there. So, like, yeah, that game sucked last night. But, now they got to focus. Now they got to win games. Now they got to try to get the best record back in the NL and Major League Baseball so you have the home field.
Yeah, speaking of that, so the magic number to clinch that first round bye is 2 games. They had a chance to do it last night if the Brewers would have lost. The Brewers ended up winning, so it actually couldn't have happened. But there was a time yesterday where you're like, they might, with this hangover game, win and clinch the first round bye. But of course, that didn't happen. So now it's moved to 2, the magic number, for them to clinch a first round bye. Could happen. You got Chris Sanchez on the mound in their final regular home game this year. I want to look at this thing. I don't know which one of our producers is going to pull it up, but the postseason picture as of now, the Phillies have the number 2 seed in the NL because the Braves have a game lead on them. Okay, so you can see right here, the Phillies have the 2 seed. Dodgers have a 1 game lead on them, so they have that 1 seed. Then you can see over the AL. But I was talking to my producer Mark beforehand, and he felt differently. So I want to hear you guys' ideas on this. But I like where they are right now. I like that they would either get the Brewers or the Diamondbacks. I know we have a little fear with the Diamondbacks because they kind of had our number the last year or so, but the Mets are red hot. We played them. We don't necessarily play our best against them. The Padres are heating up right now. So I like if the Dodgers, Padres, and Mets have to duke it out and we either get the Diamondbacks or the Brewers. What are your guys' thoughts on this?
I don't like any scenario. I am officially in the puke bucket mode of playoff baseball, to where I'm trying to remain positive, John, because I should, but also I can look at anybody that they would play, and I could come up with a reason why the Phillies could lose. You said it, Sam. By the way, the Padres aren't out of the division. I think they have 2 more against the Dodgers. They clinched the playoff spot last night on a triple play in the 9th inning. So they're getting hot at the right time. They've won 5 straight, 9 of 10. The Brewers are a very good team. The Mets have that kind of I don't know, like it's just like it's already money spent, right? Like, they have nothing to lose. They're not supposed to win anything. They're getting hot late. They're trying to get into the playoffs for the first time in a while. And the Diamondbacks had the Phillies number last year. So I don't feel comfortable with any of these matchups. Honestly, that like the Dodgers to me, and you're not going to face them early, but the Dodgers to me feel less dangerous just because they're starting pitching than anybody that you could potentially face in one of these first rounds.
I feel the same way as you, John, with the Dodgers. But you know what? Give me the New York Mets. The Phillies and the Mets have never played in a playoff series against one another, I believe, in history. Never happened. Never happened before.
Wow.
Let's get it this postseason. Bring on the Mets in the NLDS.
I don't know, because it's obviously just internal fear, but I feel like the Mets right now, if we were to face up, it reminds me a lot of the 2022 Phillies Braves. And I think we would be the Braves. They could be that Phillies team, because it's the same situation where the Phillies in 2022 just got hot at the end of the season and carried their way in. And I feel like that's kind of what we're seeing from the Mets right now. So I don't really like that one. We'll see. They have a while until they could potentially play. But yeah, I like where they are right now in that number 2 seed. The only thing I will say, because I was talking to Mark, like I said, and he had a great point about being that number 2 seed, then you don't have that home field advantage in the NLCS. So that is obviously the big thing there. But I like the placement. So we'll see what happens there. Time shall tell. But I do want to say,
it's only a half game lead that the Dodgers have over you.
Okay.
So they have a game in hand. They've played one less game, and if they finish with the same record, the Phillies own the tiebreaker. So this very much, like, there's still a decent amount of baseball to play here the rest of this week. So the Phillies the Phillies have a chance to take a little run here, win these games, get the first overall seed. Let's go.
Which, like we just said, could be good, but I still don't feel comfortable with the Mets and the Padres in that NLDS.
It's the puke bucket.
But I did want to bring up, just because, John, you said that you weren't comfortable against any of them. Jeff Passan was just on Pat McAfee show like 30 minutes ago and said that his number 1 team in the NL is the Phillies, and he thinks that they're going to win it all, which shocked me.
Like, I think that, and I can speak for me, that I'm just, this team makes me so anxious because you look at the way that baseball is played, and it's such a crapshoot once you get into the postseason. You play 162 games and be the best team in Major League Baseball and losing the first round or losing the second round. We've seen it here the last couple of years. The Phillies, when they lost the last time they lost to the Cardinals, the last chance they really had at a World Series. They're the best team in baseball through the whole regular season. But then once you hit the postseason, so it's tough. I would say that if I was objectively outside of this city, I would probably say the same thing for these reasons. They're starting pitching 1 through 4, but certainly 1, 2, and 3. I'll put over anybody. And this bullpen, you talk about guys that are now slotted into their position. Estevez is the closer. Jeff Hoffman might be the best 8th inning guy in baseball. Alvarado's looked good recently. Matt Strom's been unbelievable all year long. And a guy like Kerkering, we don't even talk about because he's not even, like, he can pitch the 7th inning in a much lower leverage situation. So the Phillies are built to win in the postseason. The bats just have to do enough. And I, like, when I take the emotion out of it, I feel really good about this team. I do. They should win. They're one of the favorites to win the World Series. And I would agree with Jeff Passan. I actually think that the Phillies should be given that kind of respect.
How do you feel about it, Pat?
Hey, I honestly think they're going to walk right to the World Series. I really do. I don't see any. I'm not really scared of any team for them to go up against, except maybe the Dodgers if their lineup starts swinging it. But like John mentioned earlier, they got chinks in their armor with their pitching staff. We definitely have the upper hand there. So I just want to play the games, roll the balls out, get the umpires out there, and let's just go play baseball. And let's see how far this team can go. And I think they are going to make it all the way to the World Series. And I think they're going to play the Yankees. And I think they're going to beat the Yankees. And it's going to go down as one of the most historic World Series wins in all. It's going to be that patented World Series championship that is going to solidify Bryce Harper's career as one of the greatest baseball players to ever put on a uniform.
Oh, I would absolutely love that. And then Juan Soto jumps ship and comes over to the team that just beat his in the World Series. That would be awesome. But I'm with you guys. Like, I think it's just the Philly fan in me that's obviously has the concerns, because we saw it last year. They went cold at the same time. We saw it this year, the not September, but before September, where they all went cold and looked flat. So obviously, I think it's the Philly fan in us that just gets a little pessimistic, if that's the right word for it. But this team, as we say all the time, it matters who's getting hot. The Mets make me nervous because they're getting hot, but Bryce Harper is hot with the power. You got Kyle Schwarber right there. Nick Castellanos has been really consistent. So, and not to mention, like you guys already said, our pitching is heating up as well. So it does look like it's good for the Phillies. I'm nervous about it. I don't want to jinx us. It's the Philly fan in me that is a little hesitant.
Just look at it from this perspective, right? If you were a fan of the Mets, the Dodgers, anybody that's in the NL right now, and you were looking at this Phillies team, what would you be saying? You're a member of the media that covered the Brewers, that covered the Mets. What would you be saying about this Phillies team? You'd be saying, Damn, they're pretty good with their
They're a
starting
juggernaut.
man. Yeah. You'd be looking at this team as the team to beat. So if you try to look at it from that perspective, because you're right, Sam, the thing that makes us anxious and gives us anxiety is that what we went through the last 2 postseasons. Playoff baseball is gut wrenching. It's what makes it great. There's nothing better than playoff baseball. And when you weren't in the playoffs for so many years, you forget what it's like until you get back in 2 years ago. So this is going to be fun. We got to get there, though, because I'm going to talk myself into the Phillies blowing it by the time the playoffs start. Because, by the way, the playoffs are going to start, and they're not going to play for a week. They're not going to play for 5 days because of the opening round. Then we're going to be talking about, but the layoff, it's hurt the teams in previous years, and you go ice cold. What are you going to do to keep fresh so you're not, you don't walk into a series driving, like we've seen it the last 2 years. The Phillies have taken advantage of it. So we'll talk ourselves into that. But I just need playoff baseball to start now. I don't want to think about all the different.
That's probably going to be our show next week is all the worry. Yes. But Rob Thompson did come out in the postgame yesterday and did acknowledge that they've been talking to a lot of teams trying to figure out even what to do because that is the most likely situation. Before we wrap up baseball, I want to hear, what is your prediction? Do they take the 1 or the 2 seed, or do they end up having to play in the wild card?
Wow. No, they're not playing wild card here. Absolutely.
They'd have to lose out, I'm pretty sure. But
yeah, like they're still like, the guys are still going to make their starts. They can't get sloppy because they could lose it. And that's the last thing that you want right now. But the Dodgers finish up with a couple more against San Diego. So they have 2 more against San Diego and then at Colorado for 3. San Diego's fighting for this division right now, and the Dodgers are on their heels. So, like, if you go into the final series of the year at Colorado and they stink, but like if San Diego can steal one of these next 2 games, now like the Dodgers are worried about the division. Forget about the number 1 seed. They're worried about losing the division. Maybe that puts a little bit of pressure on them. I like the Phillies to be the 1 seed. I think they're the best team in the National League right now, and I'm going to say that they win it.
Phillies 1 seed. They got the tiebreaker over the Dodgers.
Yes,
I think they get back on the winning track tonight. And like John said, they're playing a scrappy. Padres teams, it's fighting tooth and nail to improve their seeding. Let's go Padres, excuse me. Let's go Padres, and let's go Phillies, and let's get the 1 seed.
I agree with you guys. I think they'll end up getting the 1 seed as well, just because the Dodgers schedule, as you say, with playing with the Padres. And then we have Washington to close it out, which obviously you can't just sleep on them because they are a division rival as well. And they wouldn't like to just bow down for the Phillies, but I think most likely we do end up with that 1 seed. So exciting stuff. We'll have more to talk about that and all the time in the world next Wednesday to talk about our fears going into playoffs. But we are going to flip the switch and go into NFL. So, guys, last week, what'd you say?
Go ahead.
Last week, we talked about how the Eagles were going to go into the Saints, and we were scared that they were going to get beat, and we felt that they were going to get beat, and we were like, if they somehow pull off a win, we'll be happy. Somehow the situation ended up, they did get the win, and all of us still didn't come out happy. I think I was the one that was like, I just want to win and I'll be fine. No, I'm not. I do not feel good about that win. So a lot of things happened. You got Sirianni on the hot seat. You got Hurts with another interception, 2 turnovers total, but an interception in the end zone, which is really concerning. You got Jalen Carter, though, playing his best game after we called him out and really said that he needed to step it up and he must listen to the show like a lot of people do. And then you had a lot of injuries. So I want to hear, what were your major takeaways from the game?
Well, I just want to start with this. You said Sirianni on the hot seat. I think that's absolutely absurd to say that he's on the hot seat. They won the game. They won the game.
He almost lost it for him.
But he didn't. They didn't lose.
Because they have talent.
They didn't lose. Like, we are hammering this guy, and it's going to be like this, and this is just how it's going to be. And I've said it since the beginning, before the season started.
Yeah.
We're going to just absolutely kill this guy left and right, no matter what he does. If you want to be mad at somebody, be mad at Jalen Hurts. Be mad at Jalen Hurts. I see Nick Sirianni make play calls that are routine, go for it on 4th down play calls throughout the NFL. They didn't get it. That's not on him. That's on the players. The game was the way it was because of Jalen Hurts. But like I said, Sirianni is just going to get killed week in, week out no matter what he does, even if he wins the game, that is his job, to win the game. And he put the team in a position to win the game. That was a game where you go on the road after a loss, playing a red hot, the best team in the NFL at the moment, and we were all ready to crown them. They scored on 15 straight possessions. He got the guys ready to go. They went down there and they won the game. And he's still facing the criticism. I think it's kind of just, it's almost ridiculous at this point to be ripping apart the guy, even in a win. But that's where we are. And that's why I kind of just wish he didn't come back this season, because this is the type of stuff we're going to be talking about week in and week out with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, Maniac, I agree with you. I'm not surprised. Here's how it's going to work with Nick Sirianni this year. If they win games, it's not going to be because of Sirianni, because he doesn't do anything. When they lose games, it's going to be because of Sirianni, because of game management and things like that. I disagreed with what he did at the end of the first half. I didn't think it was a good feel for the game. It didn't seem very smart. Honestly, I haven't heard a lot of people talk about this. I think he was trying to get a touchdown from Saquon Barkley. I believe it had less to do with picking up a first down, because if you picked up a first down on that play, you really only have one play left, because you have to take your last time out there. You really only have one play left, and you have about 10 seconds, and you have one shot at the end zone. Too many things can go wrong there. You get sacked, the half's over. He throws the ball and it's not in the end zone, and it's a catch. The half's over, right? There could be a fumble. They've had problems with snaps down inside the 10-yard line. So too many things can go wrong right there. They ran a similar fake tush push to DeAndre Swift last year, and it worked against Washington. It was late in the fourth quarter, and it worked, and they scored a touchdown. I believe that they were trying to get a touchdown out of that play rather than them trying to pick up a first down so they get another shot at the end zone. So I disagreed with that scenario right there. But as far as Nick Sirianni, even with a win, people are just ready to bury him, to go after him. And this isn't going to stop until they continue winning and Nick Sirianni kind of gets off of our radar. Whether it's fair or not, and Maniac Malloy, I tend to agree with you that it is over the top. The criticism is over the top, but that's the criticism. That's where the city is right now. That's where the fans are right now. So when we talk about him being on the hot seat, let me say this, because I had said this last week. I don't know if I said it on here. If they would have lost that game against the Saints, he would step into this week's game against the Buccaneers in Tampa, I believe, coaching for his job. I believe, even though what he's done in his track record as the head coach and the success he's had as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, he would be really on the hot seat, because at that point, if you're 1-3 and now you're looking and being like, well, this season lost, what's going on? Like, Jeffrey Lurie may look at it and say, we got to make a move. Or this could be a lost season with a guy I didn't even know if I wanted to bring back, who was close to being let go. So he's 2-1. He's made the playoffs every year that he's been the Eagles head coach. He went to a Super Bowl and was that close to winning a Super Bowl. But the last, however many games the last season, are real, and it's had a carryover effect into this year. And fans are ready to pounce on Sirianni. They better keep winning games.
I get what you guys are saying, and you're right, Maniac, in the fact that, like, Hurts is not off the radar at all. Like, he needs to step up 100%. But my problem with Sirianni is the fact that I just feel like he is trying almost to do these like trick plays, if you want to say, and like try to outsmart everybody because he wants to prove that he deserves his position and he deserves that job. But it's been back-to-back weeks now where they haven't worked out. You have guys that are injured. You have the team not looking as solid as they should be. So it's just not the time to take those risks. And I think that he's trying to outsmart everybody because he feels that he's on the chopping block, and he should be, because the wins that they do have aren't good wins. And it feels exactly like last year, the whole entire season, when we were just giving them the benefit of the doubt and we were like, a win's a win. This team is not good enough to win the Super Bowl. And my biggest problem, I agree with you, that Nick Sirianni, I almost just wish he was gone last year. Not almost. I do wish he was gone last year, because it almost just feels like this year we're kind of just waiting for it to happen and the chips to fall. This team does not look good enough to win the Super Bowl. So it's frustrating because you're watching this guy trying to prove that he should still be here, but the team's still not good enough. So it feels like they're almost just like willing to risk this season and just be like, we'll see what happens with Sirianni. And that's frustrating to me. And I feel like it's frustrating to most fans because I don't want to just have a season where we're trying to figure out what we are and figure out if he's the right coach. I want a season where we're competing for the Super Bowl. And it's frustrating that it feels like that this is just delaying it another year. And that's my biggest problem. And that's why I am so critical of Nick Sirianni, because if this is just an experiment, get him gone. I want him gone. The faster, the better, because this team has so much talent on it. And yes, Jalen Hurts does need to improve. I do think that he has the ability to improve. I'm hoping at least still. Definitely needs to cut back here soon on the turnovers, but I'm over it. I don't want to have this year be an experiment. I want it to be over fast, and I want him to make a decision, and I want to win the Super Bowl.
Wow. Go ahead and respond.
I'll tell you what. I mean, one thing to keep in mind here is it's been a full season we've watched now. Jalen Hurts play badly if you count up the games. It's been almost a full season where he's played just flat out awful. And even despite Hurts playing absolutely atrocious, I mean, those are two games where you know the first game of the season against the Packers and then now the Saints game. Like, you have no business actually maybe winning those games. You really don't. And even in spite of Hurts's play, you're still winning games. I mean, it's unbelievable to think what Sirianni's record is with Hurts and the way he's played. Imagine if he didn't have Jalen Hurts in his way and creating turnovers and averaging 2 turnovers a game. I mean,
leads the league.
He leads the league.
Last year.
I mean, Jalen Hurts, I am very, very concerned. I am much more concerned about him than I am about Nick Sirianni. That's for sure.
Oh,
I think that's understandable. Just in the
that's a good old fashioned topic right there, Sam. Who are you more concerned about?
I was just
head coach
going to say
the
it makes sense. Obviously, you have to be more concerned if it's. I mean, gosh, that actually just made me really sad realizing that it's like Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz again. But no, it does make sense though, because like your quarterback, you just signed him to a long-term deal. Like, you are stuck with him. It's scarier to think that he could be the problem. I don't feel that way yet. I still think that it's Nick Sirianni, and I'm hoping that's the case because that is less scary, right? You could just get rid of him whenever, essentially. But my problem is with everybody attacking Hurts is, yes, he does need to get better. The turnovers need to stop. They need to completely just be gone, obviously. But I don't think it's fair to judge him on last year. He had a hurt knee, which completely took away his rushing ability. We only saw the year before that where he started to get his passing ability on. And then last year it was shuffled with that knee injury where it took away his rushing ability. And he was in a really unorthodox position on the offense with who was running it, all the drama behind doors. We don't even know that full story yet. So I don't even think that's fair about it. I think that we've seen him pass before, and that year that they went to the Super Bowl showed that he has that ability. I think now, yes, he needs to get it together fast, but he is in a new offense. He is trying to overstep. He's got injuries. He's trying to do too much, and that's his problem. But with that being said, with the turnovers, he's also had glimpses this year where it's been like Jalen Hurts is back. He's looked good besides those turnovers. So
yeah.
I haven't felt that way. I really haven't.
I do.
I mean, I've seen him put the ball in harm's way just about every single game. And I am not letting him off the hook from last year. And I don't know why anybody would let him off the hook from last year after all of those consecutive games in a row where he just played like dog dirt. I mean, and then he comes out this season and it's more of the same. That's.
I don't feel that way. I don't think, obviously, the turnovers, yes, very, very bad. And obviously,
you don't feel like he's playing exactly the same as he did to close the season out last year?
No, I think literally the last 2 games, especially week 2 against the Falcons, they lost. But that whole game, you even saw most of Philadelphia. It was like a topic of conversation during the game. Like, oh my gosh, we're seeing him rush again. He's back. So like that is going to help his game extremely. Right now, I think he is making bad decisions, obviously with the turnovers. He needs to get smarter with that. But I have confidence that it will come. He's also without AJ Brown. We'll get into all the other injuries for last week, but
yeah, really.
Yeah, John.
How many games in a row has it been that he's turned the ball over?
Since Kansas City last year.
Every single game since the Kansas City game last year, week 10 was that? He's consistent. He's consistent in turning the ball over 11 times.
But it's also not fair in the fact that we've even talked about with the Green Bay game. There was like one turnover out of 4 that actually we felt, or at least I felt, was on him. The other ones I didn't.
I disagree.
Okay, well, it's up for opinion.
And there was and there was at least 2 balls in that he threw around the yard that game that should have been picked off.
In the nicest way possible. Yeah. I think the turnover stat, obviously, like I cannot stress it enough, obviously needs to get better. But I think that's one of the stats where it is, the stats tell a different story than the eye test. Because yes, you can say he had 4 turnovers a game. When you watch it, I don't believe that most people truly feel all 4 turnovers are on Jalen Hurts.
Wow.
And that's where it's stats against eye test.
Give me a second here, because you guys are both giving me a lot to chew on.
I know we are just going back and forth. Sorry,
John. No, but it's like great stuff. Because you mentioned the eye test. It's like you keep saying stuff, and I'm like, well, that's another thing I want to talk about. So like the eye test. I mean, the reality is they didn't score in the first half of against the Saints. They didn't score a point. So they could have kicked field goals or whatever else. Jalen Hurts, to me, last season gets a mulligan based on the coaching and the injury or whatever else. But he went on the clock once the season ended and this season started. And so far, like, I'm not jumping. I still believe in Jalen Hurts, but he's got to improve. He's regressed as a quarterback since the Super Bowl. He was unbelievable. The development that he made in that Super Bowl, leading up to the Super Bowl as a passer, he was amazing. He needs to get back to that level. Regarding Nick Sirianni, and I agree with you, Sam, this is something you said a little bit ago, that a lot of fans more or less don't believe in Nick Sirianni. Don't believe in Nick Sirianni, and they're more or less just going through the motions because they don't think it's going to work. I even said this, that they brought Nick Sirianni back. Jeffrey Lurie decided not to fire Nick Sirianni because he was in the Super Bowl 2 years previously. He just made the playoffs. Jalen Hurts was injured, and they felt like, I can't fire him. I have to give him another shot. He's fighting for his job. Like, I got to give him another shot. Well, that's great. You're giving him another shot, but if you're just giving him another shot and no one actually believes they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, which I think is a lot of fans felt like that. They felt like you're giving him another shot because you have to give him another shot. It's not going to work. So let's hurry up and move on to the next head coach. That's why I thought if they started slow, he could have been whacked during the season. It's a tough way to live. Being an Eagles fan like that is a tough way to live. And then the last thing I'll say, and then I'm done, that I actually think that was a really good win against the Saints. To go on the road in a situation like that, where you lose Devontae, you didn't have AJ, you lost 2 starting offensive linemen. You're throwing to Johnny Wilson and Paris Campbell and Dotson, who, by the way, can't play. That doesn't look like a great trade.
Yep.
They found a way to win the game on the road in a tough environment, and they got the win. And that's really all that matters to me. It was an impressive win for me, but it also doesn't mean that everything's going to be fine, because a lot of the same things, and you said it, Sam, a lot of the same things we said last year, which was they're winning and they're finding a way to win, they found a way to win the game, and then at some point last year, you had to say, well, they're finding ways to win. How can I criticize them? And then the end of the season happened where they were finding ways not to win. So they better not do the same thing this year. They need to be a better football team than what they showed. They were fortunate to win those games and to start off 10-1 this year. You're not going to be as fortunate this year unless you play better football. And, the defense was unbelievable. For all the talk of Jalen Hurts and everything else, the defense was amazing. So that gives me real hope that this team's going to be okay.
Who gets more credit for the win then, John? The impressive win, though, on Sunday, Nick Sirianni or Jalen Hurts?
The defense does.
Yeah.
Nick Sirianni
so
does.
That would be Nick Sirianni.
Nick Sirianni's not getting
linked.
he is not getting any credit for anything from the fan base. Does he deserve credit? I'll just leave it like this. If you had a different head coach, what would the Eagles record be right now? If you had a Shanahan, a McVay, even a Bill Belichick, just trying to think of some of the better coaches in the NFL, player type coaches, even Dan Quinn down in Washington, right? If you had those head coaches, aren't the Eagles probably 3-0 right now?
Yes.
Don't they find a way to win that Atlanta Falcons game? So the reality is that do the fans, does the Eagles organization, and probably more importantly, do the players believe in Nick Sirianni as he gives them the best chances as a head coach to win? I don't think that they do. I don't.
I was just going to bring that point up. As terrible as it sounds, and you hope it's not the case, it is something to wonder, like just the names you said, like Bill Belichick. This obvious in my mind too. I'm also like, this might be the football gods talking to us and doing something just so it's a reason to get Nick Sirianni out the door, bring in Bill Belichick. I don't know if he'd actually fit with this organization, but it is a dream. But you do think about that. Think about these players and how they act with Nick Sirianni. He doesn't seem like he has the complete control and respect of them necessarily. If Bill Belichick comes in here, you're going to get every single player saying, yes, sir, whatever you say. And I don't think it's the same way with Nick Sirianni. That's a great point, John.
Yeah, it is. And I think they seriously considered hiring Belichick last year, and like how he would. Belichick's in his 70s, so it wouldn't be like when you bring in Chip Kelly, but still, like Bill Belichick's going to come in and wield a certain amount of power. I mean, at this point, short term, I'm okay with doing something like that. But I want to be positive with the Eagles. Maniac Malloy. I know that you're a Sirianni lover. You and Elliot. I believe me. I know what Elliot says. I know you guys are in cahoots with this with Sirianni. So I want to support him because if we take a step back and we take the emotion out of it, they're 2-1. And let's see what they do against Tampa. They beat Tampa Bay on Sunday. They're 3-1, and they're looking really good.
Yeah, so talking about Tampa Bay, we did mention a lot of injuries against the Saints. So you had that dirty hit on Devontae Smith. That's the ref's fault, majority. Obviously not blowing the whistle. But so he is questionable for this week in concussion protocol. Lane Johnson with throwing up from getting a concussion in the game.
God.
Does not look good. He's also listed as questionable. In my mind, I feel like both of those guys are doubtful with the hits that they took. Darius Slay is good after taking that dirty hit that kind of took him out for a couple plays. Britton Covey, though, on the IR with a shoulder injury. Obviously, not somebody that you would think is a big loss, but when you're potentially without Devontae Smith, you have A.J. Brown, who's questionable. We don't know yet if he's going to be able to come back from that injury. What do you guys have with all the injuries and the possible team that could be going out there against Tampa this weekend?
Man, on that Devontae hit, and you're right, the refs were late to blow the whistle. But even with that being said, that is the best example of unnecessary roughness in the National Football League right now. Mm-hmm. You don't need a whistle. When you're being driven back 5 yards, what's unnecessary, like that's an unnecessary hit. You see plays like that flagged all the time. You didn't have to tee off on them. The NFL has done very well to try to take that part of it out of the game. It was clear. Now, even if you went in and you got him in the gut, they should still call a penalty. The fact that you went helmet to helmet and knocked his helmet off, the guy should be suspended or fined. And that was as dirty as you can get. But I guess what maybe we can look to this as being a positive is it brought Dallas Goedert back from the dead. I think, Pat, we talked about this before. I just kind of felt Dallas Goedert sucked now.
Yeah, we all did.
Yeah, if he can't get open, so otherwise they throw it to him. Meanwhile, he looked like the same Dallas Goedert 3-4 years ago that it's like, wow, this dude's a stud. And maybe this resurrected Dallas Goedert to where maybe Jalen Hurts in the offense pays attention to him a little bit now.
Biggest game of his career. For this game, it all comes down to the $255 million man. And I think Jalen Hurts has got to find a way. That's why you're paying him. That's why he's the 9th highest paid quarterback in the league. You got to figure out a way. I mean, I don't think not having A.J. Brown, not having Devontae Smith, I'm not accepting that as an answer for why we're not going to be able to move the football. That's unacceptable. I will not accept that if because, make excuses for Jalen because no AJ. Now make excuses because, no AJ and no Devontae. No, you're paying the guy $255 million. Go out there and win us a football game. Find a way. You have to find a way, and don't be handing the ball off to Saquon Barkley 38 times in the game, okay? Find the open guys, make a play, get the ball to Paris Campbell, get the ball to Jahan Dotson, whatever it takes. Johnny Wilson. That's why you're paying the guy. He's got to step up.
I will say, with the injuries that we're facing right now, besides Lane Johnson obviously not being able to being questionable, I'll say, it does turn out in our favor a little bit that they're all passing guys, because there is supposed to be a hurricane in Tampa Bay. So that might actually affect how this game's going to be.
Yeah.
And it might be good that it's going to be Saquon, it's going to be Jalen's legs, and we'll see what else they use out there. And then obviously having Dallas Goedert just for the short dump off. So it could be very favorable for the Eagles and the injuries that they're facing right now. It'll be interesting to see if they do try to bring AJ back. But also Tampa Bay, we talked about before, they did look beginning of the season. It's still the beginning of the season, but then last week had a terrible loss against the Broncos and Bo Nix. So they aren't what I think originally feared. They're very beatable. And like I said, if it is going to be the monsoon and the hurricane that they're saying it's going to be down there, it does look very favorable, I think, for the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean they're coming off also a really big win over the Lions on the road. So I get that is shows that they are definitely human, losing to Bo Nix and the Broncos. So yeah, they absolutely are beatable. But look out. Baker Mayfield has been looking like the first round pick he was, the first 2 games of the season. So you got to have an answer for that. And you know what else? Todd Bowles has done a wonderful job in
I agree
containing Jalen Hurts and giving him problems. And now without AJ, without Devontae, it makes it a little bit more difficult. But I don't want to hear excuses for Hurts. I don't. That's why you're getting paid all this money, and that's what they're going to start to do. People are going to start making excuses for him. Oh, well, he didn't have AJ. Oh, well, he didn't have Devontae. No, we got to hold this guy to the standard. He always talks about the standard. The standard should be winning Sunday, no matter what.
Let's do it. It's when you look at the game, right? If I was a betting man, which I am, and we'll go on the Parx app and see what that line is for the game, but Tampa went to Detroit and upset Detroit, right? They come back the next week and they're flat and they lose because of the big emotional win over Detroit. They lose the following week, right? Like we see this all over the NFL all the time. The Raiders, they have a big emotional win over the Ravens. They lose to the freaking Carolina Panthers the next week. The Cowboys smashed the Saints. The Saints smashed the Cowboys. They come back and they're a little bit flat. So now the Eagles coming off a big emotional win against the Saints, going to Tampa, who's coming off of a bad loss that they felt like they should have won last week. This is a tough spot for the Eagles. From a betting standpoint, the week-to-week NFL, this sets up in the Bucs' favor, just like it set up in the Eagles' favor last week. The Eagles are coming off a really bad loss, and they came out, they played inspired football. So it's going to be a tough game on Sunday, without a doubt. I didn't even think about the weather, Sam, that it's supposed to be hurricane.
Who you taking, John, on the betting line?
I like the Bucs.
What is the spread?
I like the Bucs too. I like
2.5.
Too.
Is it 2?
They're giving.
The Eagles are laying 2.5 on the road.
Oh, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that.
It's an Eagle line, but I just think they're off on it.
Yeah, I agree. I could see the Eagles winning. I don't like a spread on it just because it is on the road. You got the weather, you got the injuries. You're still you got, to your guys' point, the Bucs coming off a bad loss, so they're going to have some extra emphasis on that. Todd Bowles. So I agree with you guys. I don't even think I'm confident in taking the money line, but I think I would. But I'm not confident to tell you to.
I actually saw my friend on Twitter tweet out if a couple of the travel groups were still having the trip, and I thought, well, what do you mean? I already thought he had someone might have canceled the trip. One of these travel groups might have canceled because
that
of the weather.
Actually would be interesting because of that weather. Our producer Mark Feldman's actually leaving tomorrow night for Tampa or that area somewhere in Florida to see his family.
Going down? Oh.
Yeah, Feldman, his family lives down there. So he's going down there. But I told him, I was like, you should change the flight to tonight because I don't know how well that's going to go for you.
You might be stuck there.
Yeah, right. Oh, terrible state getting But I do want to bring up, guys, that just looking around the NFL and the MLB, it feels like somebody in Philadelphia has a voodoo doll on the Braves and the Niners, because our two most hated teams the last couple years are down and out bad with injuries. How about the Niners? Like, literally cannot catch a break.
That Super Bowl hangover, baby. Hopefully it just sets in and they can ride this one out all year long.
So keep this in mind, and you don't think it's going to happen because you're used to looking the track record of the player. But for the most part, when you hold out and you don't report until the end of training camp, the play is not as good as that player. CeeDee Lamb was not an active participant in training camp, and he struggled to start the season. Brandon Ayuk was not an active participant for the 49ers in training camp. He was there, but he was a hold in. He has not been good. So you look at these teams that had these problems with players not reporting because of contract issues. Guess what? They're struggling. So you got to take advantage of this now. By the way, McCaffrey, that's a much more serious injury than I think anybody realized. He's over in Germany getting second opinions and stuff on his calf or his Achilles. This is trouble for him. So take advantage now. Get these wins if you're the Eagles. But yeah, like it is fast and furious with the injuries that the 49ers are having right now. And nobody's crying for it. That's for sure.
Yeah, it is. I think it just adds to my frustration about how the Eagles seem to just be so lax with giving Sirianni the extra chance, going back to that, just because it does feel like there's that window and they're just not going to seize it, is my fear, at least, because they still obviously have time to get it together. They have talent. So I'm hoping. But yeah, there is that window, and it's actually insane. Okay, guys, look into this weekend. The Phillies go to Washington. John, who do you have to go out of the Parx?
Oh, man. Well, listen, I think Bryce Harper is going to continue to show you that he is ready for postseason baseball. So he had that rocket last night, hit his 30th. Schwarby went 37 last night with a home run. So I'd stick with the two guys going into this weekend. Now, I don't know if I would wait for Sunday. I don't know if that game's going to matter anything on Sunday. We'll have to see. Early part of the series this weekend, Friday and Saturday, go Bryce Harper. I know the number's not going to be great, but I can see him going 1 or 2 home runs in the series.
I like it.
James Woods. James Wood. I mean,
big dude.
We already bet him one time and he hit. Throw him on the ticket every game as the star young player ends his first season here in the major leagues. I'm sure he wants to close out the last series of the season with a home run at some point. Bet James Wood to hit a home run this weekend on the Bet Parx app.
Speaking of a young guy, did you guys see what they did for Jackson Holiday when they clinched the playoff spot? The Orioles. They had like the fake champagne and put baby bird water. Nice. Because he's 20 years old. He can't even legally drink, and he's about to be in the postseason.
I love it.
Isn't that insane?
Good stuff. That's good stuff.
Any marks in the Maniac money
line? We have
line?
no marks in the Maniac money line this week. They're skipping it this week, so we're gonna bring it back better than ever for playoff baseball
season
next week. Yeah, then we're gonna really turn it up.
I like it. Okay, guys, that's all we have for episode number 26. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week to talk about our postseason fears. Hopefully, we'll be here.
We made it.
And
we made it through the preseason of this show. Now the real season for the show starts.
I love it. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Yeah, Uber.